23 minutes to go to the start of the 1995 British Grand Prix, and my bones tell me that we have got a very, very exciting, memorable 2 hours in front of us. In fact, the unpredictability has already started, because just a few minutes ago, as you heard from Steve Ryder, we had a few spots of rain. The warm-up this morning was dry. The qualifying yesterday was wet. The qualifying on Friday was dry. The teams will therefore have had an opportunity to try to sort out the best critical settings for both dry and wet conditions. But the problem is, if in the next 25 minutes we don't have much rain and the course is damp, what tyres will they be fitting? And Damon Hill is probably going to give us his opinion talking to Steve Ryder.
Everyone wanting to talk to Damon Hill here. Damon, a quick word for BBC Sunday Grandstand viewers, and in particular on the conditions. Few rain spots as you came round the circuit there.
Yes, we had that this morning. It doesn't look like it's going to continue though, but there is every chance it could happen again in the race. And we're very cautious about that fact.
The mood around the camp, and how did morning warm-up go for you?
It was a good morning warm-up, but you can't really go on what happens in the warm-up other than particularly what your car feels like, and getting a good feel for the race. And I was happy with the car, and I feel confident with it, so I should be able to put that into practice in the race and convert my pole position here into a race win.
And your own sense of composure, has the weeks build up? Well, it's been a bit frantic, I know, but has it been close to ideal?
It's been fantastic. There's been a lot of interest, a lot of hype, a lot of nonsense, and really this is the only real truth, the race itself. And everyone knows that I want to beat Michael Schumacher. I want to close the gap on him in the championship, but it's still early days in the championship. We've got a long way to go, but nevertheless we've got to reverse the trend that he set of winning too many races.
How intense has the debate been within the team about race tactics and strategy?
Well, I was here till about 11 o'clock last night. I think that there's been a great deal of attention paid to how we approach the race, and really the bottom line is you have to just go quicker.
And a word about the fans. The support around this circuit for yourself and all the British drivers is fantastic.
Marvellous. It's really, really great. It's a great event. To be here is you don't really appreciate it until you're here and feel the atmosphere.
Have another good British Grand Prix. Thanks, Damon. All the best.
You heard a few words about the warm-up this morning. Let me just try and explain that. There's a half-hour period, 4.5 hours before the race begins, in which the cars are allowed out on the track again, and it's in that final half hour that you see how quickly the cars will go in relation to each other with whatever fuel load they are choosing to run in the race. And of course they are on race tyres, slicks or wets according to the conditions. And we had a shock this morning in the warm-up, because the much derided McLaren Mercedes, which has not been successful this year, to put it mildly, was fastest in the hands of Mika Hakkinen. And when I nipped down to find out how, the answer was that there is a new Mercedes Ilmor built engine which was brought in here overnight. They were not at all sure about whether they were going to use it in the race, but have now decided that they will. It's a bit of a gamble. It may break, but if it holds together, we know it's a lot quicker. And Mika Hakkinen is a tremendously fast driver, up with Schumacher and Damon Hill, certainly in terms of race speed ability, and he is absolutely burning to get some points. He's well down in the pecking order this year. He's only 9th in the championship with 5 points. But second in the warm-up was Damon Hill, very comfortably so, very happy with his car. And good news for Williams fans is that Coulthard was third fastest. The Ferraris need watching, and a man who'll be doing that is 3-time world champion Niki Lauda, their consultant, who is with Steve Ryder.
Niki Lauda, with what sort of optimism are Ferrari approaching this British Grand Prix?
I'm afraid with not too much, unless the weather helps us, because the weather now is very funny. So if the rain comes in, everybody thinks can change. But in the moment it looks like if Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher will just go and leave everybody, especially when the circuit is dry. So it will all depend what the weather will do.
With your experience, how are you reading the potential conditions we've got now?
I think it's the worst condition for racing drivers to be here on the grid. not knowing if the first corner is damp. At the moment, thank God the weather stopped and it doesn't rain. But if the circuit gets slippery, I don't want to be on a start here and then go with slicks into the first corner. So it will all depend on what the weather's going to do.
British Grand Prix, always a special occasion, and it seems bigger and better than ever.
It is. I've never seen a crowd like this before. Coming here to the circuit took ages this morning, so it's really impressive.
Niki, Ferrari, have a good race.
Thank you
Thanks
very
very much.
What a great man, 3 times world champion for Ferrari and McLaren, Niki Lauda. You heard what he had to say. You caught a brief glimpse of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent with Lord Hesketh, who is the president of the British Racing Drivers Club, who own and operate this superb Silverstone circuit. Gerhard Berger there in the World Championship is in 4th position. He hasn't won a race this year. He won one last year, the German Grand Prix for Ferrari. Ferrari have come up to speed very much this year. They've got marvellous men at the Maranello factory. They've got superb facilities. They've got a gigantic budget. It was just a case of pulling it all together. And under the control of Frenchman Jean Todt, they have done just that. And there you can see the Benetton. But a significant point in this race, as in every race, and I'd like to give Jonathan a chance to talk about it before the race begins, is this question of tyre and refuelling strategies. But Johnny Herbert there is starting 5th on the grid, which is an excellent performance. Already on the grid, and also ready is David Coulthard with Steve Ryder.
David Coulthard, you've got away with words. Sum up the tension a driver feels at a moment like this.
Well, it's very difficult now, especially as it started to spit with rain, and all the work you've done through the warm-up, then you think you've got a good balance, and then this can just make it a bit of a lottery. So it's fair to say that I'm very nervous at this time.
Now, you were fastest in the wet yesterday. Is that potentially a factor this afternoon?
Yeah, I think I would be okay if it was to rain during the race. That's providing I can get back to the pits and slicks. It always makes it incredibly difficult, and I really hope that it just remains the same.
At the start last year, frustrations for yourself. You're on the 2nd row, and what's the thinking? What's the strategy for the opening few laps for yourself?
Well, first of all, try not to stall on the warm-up lap, of course, and I fully intend trying to make a place at the start. Now it's difficult. I'm offline, so I'm on the messy side. So I've got to try and make sure I can first of all go forward, but of course make sure Gerhard doesn't come up the inside.
And as we've heard from Damon, spirit's good in the team. All of you have a good race.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Well, a confident-looking David Coulthard. Incidentally, this is going to be the first race this year that he has not been on medication, because he's been suffering from nasty attacks of tonsillitis. He had his tonsils removed after the French Grand Prix. He's looking sharper. He says he's feeling a lot fitter. He's back in training, and this is his 16th Grand Prix today here. 16 Grand Prix in a year, normally 17 this year, just to prove me wrong there. But 16 Grand Prix. This is David Coulthard's 16th. He would love to win this one in his first year of Grand Prix racing. So, of course, would Eddie Irvine there, the Irishman in the Irish Jordan team. And Eddie Irvine is starting 7th on the grid. He had a very special engine for qualifying yesterday. They used the Peugeot V10 engine. Now, the national anthem. Ukyo Katayama, the only Japanese driver in the race, driving the Tyrrell Yamaha. And this gives me a chance to ask the guru of refueling strategies, Jonathan Palmer, what's going to happen?
Well, we've got a 60-lap race here, and it's my guess that the most likely strategy that teams will adopt is to stop twice. And the first stop would typically, I think, be around about lap 15 to lap 20, something like that. with the second stop between about lap 35 and lap 40. The teams tending to stop a little bit before 1/3 and 2/3 distance respectively, as a rule, because the racing tends to be harder in the early stages. But there's a fly in the ointment, I think, to that, and that is from looking at the morning's warm-up times with Michael Schumacher. I think there's a suspicion that Benetton and Schumacher could be stopping just once. That's a regime that they adopted to great effect to win the Spanish Grand Prix, and the reason for that is that Schumacher's times weren't that quick. He wasn't at the head of the times, or even indeed in the first two, and this could be a strategy that they're looking at adopting, partly because they are unsure on the weather, and we know that the chance of showers is quite likely, and many teams feel that if there's going to be a chance of wet weather, then they don't want to be doing too many stops, and to do just one could be the right thing to do.
Grovelling apologies to Taki Inoue, who is as Japanese as I am English and is the second Japanese driver in the race. He's driving the Arrows Heart. Now, what's going to happen when this race begins? Well, you know as well as I do, there is the Copse corner, which is a 100-mile-an-hour corner, just a few yards away from the start. Last year, Damon Hill started from the front row of the grid with Michael Schumacher. That's where they are now. But Johnny Herbert has got a view on that, as he has on all other things, and he's with Steve Ryder.
Johnny, a little late on the grid, a fair amount of activity around the car. Does that indicate problems?
No, it doesn't. No, everything's okay. It's just we was a little bit out a little bit late, and I just wanted to do 2 sort of laps onto the grid, so that's why I'm a bit late.
Has there been any kind of discussion on tyres?
No tyres at the moment. We're sort of happy how they're going, so we haven't got any problems with the tyres.
You got a good qualifying position, legacy of Friday's performance. What are your thoughts for the race?
Well, the thoughts are good. The car, we had a problem with one of the dampers this morning, but the car now feels a lot better, and it feels much more comfortable to drive now. So I think from that point of view, that should actually help me a little bit.
You're owed a good British Grand Prix. Have one today.
Thanks a lot.
There is a very, very brave and determined man. Johnny Herbert shattered both his legs in a dreadful crash in Formula 3000 at Brands Hatch in 1988. It took him a long time to recover. He's had quite a few Formula 1 drives with the Benetton team, Tyrrell Lotus for a long time, Ligier as well. Now back with Benetton, a second position this year, and he will be hoping very much for points, because Benetton want points for the Constructors' Championship. You may have heard Flavio Briatore earlier on saying that to them the Constructors' Championship was not all that important. The Drivers' Championship is all important. I believe that, but I do not believe that the Constructors' Championship is not important to them. And you want 2 top drivers to get those points, as Williams have got in Damon Hill and David Coulthard, and Benetton now have in Michael Schumacher and Johnny Herbert. So there's the man who will be looking to get away first from pole position, the second year in succession at the British Grand Prix. Damon Hill, it's his 8th pole position in his career. It's his 4th of this year, and he has wryly pointed out himself that in his previous 3 pole positions, the positions were reversed at the end of the race, and he will be hoping that doesn't happen today. Michael Schumacher, second on the grid, had a dreadful British Grand Prix last year. He got the black flag and subsequently lost his points. He finished in second place. And in third position on the grid, it's the second Williams Renault, that of David Coulthard. So it's Renault engined cars in the top 3 places. Damon Hill, then Michael Schumacher. There is 24-year-old David Coulthard, a man that quite a few people here actually are saying could win this year. I believe he could win this year. He's got tremendous opposition against him, of course, in Schumacher and Hill, both of whom have considerably more experience than him. This, after all, is only David's 16th race. The ever-smiling practical joker, Gerhard Berger, the winner of the 1994 German Grand Prix, the last win but one for Ferrari. Starting 4th on the grid. The Ferraris are a bit disappointing here, to be quite honest with you. But next to Gerhard Berger is Johnny Herbert himself. He's got his balaclava on after talking to Steve Ryder. On goes that distinctively coloured helmet of his, which distinguishes him in the car from Michael Schumacher, whose helmet carries the colours of Germany. That's Tim Wright in the glasses, who is Johnny Herbert's race engineer. Jean Alesi, the hero of Canada. My goodness, they invaded the course for him in Canada. He carried the evocative number of Gilles Villeneuve, number 27. Ferrari is the darling of Canada, and now Jean Alesi is too. He won their Grand Prix, his first in 91 races at that time. The most spectacular Grand Prix driver of them all. That's Eddie Irvine, the man who has consistently outdriven the very, very capable Rubens Barrichello, his teammate, in the Jordan with the Peugeot V10 engine. They have a new evolution of that V10 engine, which is much better and as reliable as the previous one. Now, is this man going to do something spectacular this race? The answer is yes, because the moment Mika Häkkinen lets the clutch in, it is spectacular. But remember what I told you, he's got what they call the hand grenade engine behind him, the engine built by Ilmor at Brixworth for Mercedes-Benz. This is the youngest driver in the race, Rubens Barrichello from Brazil. His mentor was Ayrton Senna, and Rubens Barrichello is starting from 9th on the grid. He's the man who had that superb drive in Donington in those appallingly wet conditions when he ran second for a long time. And completing the top 10, England's Mark Blundell. And written on his helmet there around the back is "Will to Win," which he carries in honour of his grandfather. And there it is, the will to win. Now, Mark Blundell is driving the McLaren that Mansell would have been driving. Martin Brundle, who is starting 11th on the grid, had a big off this morning. They've rebuilt the Ligier since then. It wasn't terribly badly damaged, but it was badly damaged enough for them to consider using the spare, but they decided they could get it all together again. He spun off fairly harmlessly, but was then hit by the 40 car of Pedro Diniz, the Brazilian, and that did the Ligier no good at all. Ligier car, Mugen engine. As you can see, there's not only an enormous crowd around the track, 90,000 tickets. This is the first all-ticket British Grand Prix, and the word was yesterday, if you haven't got a ticket, don't even bother to come. There were traffic jams outside the circuit, very, very big traffic jams, at 5 o'clock this morning. I came in at 7 o'clock, and if I hadn't known the back roads, I think I would still be there. 24 cars to start in the British Grand Prix, and bringing up the rear of the grid, Mika Salo 23rd on the Tyrrell Yamaha and Montemini on the Pacific. Five minutes to go. Damon Hill, pole position. Michael Schumacher, second on the grid. David Coulthard, third on the grid. Do you want to risk a prophecy, Jonathan?
It's going to be very, very close indeed. Hill really has driven extraordinarily well here in qualifying. We thought that Schumacher had done an absolutely scintillating time with that 1 minute 28.3, and I think Damon wasn't confident that even he could beat it, but he did. He went out there and achieved just that. And I think we should also reflect that Williams will have undoubtedly looked very carefully at their race performance at the last Grand Prix in France and looked at the various areas where they lost out, and I think as a result of that, We'll see Damon pushing even harder during the race than he was in France. I think he's recognised that he needs to adopt more of a qualifying level of pace even in the race. I think Damon's going to recognise that he needs to be able to scythe through the back, marker traffic better. Williams know that they've got to get their refueling strategy right, and that includes the basic strategy, and that's do you stop once, twice, or we think it's very unlikely 3 times, and then you've got to make sure that when you do stop, you try and do that as slickly as possible. And again, Benetton are the past masters on that. Benetton seem to be able to take the same amount of fuel on in 1 second less than Williams, and Williams will be sharpening up their act there. And I think also Williams will sharpen up their act in terms of exactly when they do call Damon in, because he certainly lost about 4 seconds in France because he was called in 2 laps later than Schumacher, and Schumacher therefore had the advantage of not losing time in traffic, and you can see the concentration there in Hill's eyes. I think Damon Hill can do it here today.
All quiet on the Silverstone front. You could cut the atmosphere with a cricket stump here. 3 minutes to go before the start of this 61 lap, 191 mile race, which is going to make so much difference to the World Championship. Michael Schumacher has already won this year in Brazil, in Spain, in Monaco and in France. Damon Hill has won twice in Argentina and at the San Marino Grand Prix in Imola. The 7th Grand Prix was won by Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. So 3 winners, and they are all on the top 3 rows of the grid. Damon Hill pole, Michael Schumacher second, Jean Alesi is on the 3rd row in 6th position. The charge up to Copse, which has been reprofiled this year, is going to be very important indeed. But let me remind you that this Silverstone is a very different one from 1993. In 1994, that dreadful year for Grand Prix racing, the British Racing Drivers Club in 16 days caused the most all-embracing changes to be made to Silverstone in its history for safety reasons. The result is that the new Beckett's complex is absolutely superb, one of the best corner complexes in Grand Prix racing. There are 1 or 2 corners that the drivers don't like as much as they did before, but they accept that it is that way because of the safety needs. And there is Silverstone. You can see the start and finish line at the top into Copse Corner, the first right-hander. Now we may see a reference to Intermediate 1 and Intermediate 2. There are 3 sectors where the track can be individually timed, from the finish line to Intermediate 1, and that will take about 31 seconds. From 1 to 2 takes about 23 seconds, and from 2 to 3 takes about 38 seconds. That's a 1 minute 32 seconds lap. Damon Hill's pole position time was 1 minute 28 seconds. And the black joker in the pack, I regret to say, has to be, look at the top of your screen, what is the weather going to do? It's grey, it's overcast. There's quite a stiff breeze blowing and tugging the flags on their flagpoles, and let's hope that keeps up, because I think that will help to keep the rain away. But the die is soon going to be cast. When they leave the grid, it will not be to start the race as such, it will be to start the first and extra formation lap, as it is called, and this is the one where Michael Schumacher blotted his copybook last year by illegally passing Damon Hill.
Well, he hasn't done that this time, and in fact has hung back a bit, and David Coulthard is now having to check that he doesn't overtake Michael Schumacher. Coming down now, 185 miles an hour on the racing line, 3rd gear through Copse Corner. They'll be doing about 110 through that, accelerating up to 175 before the Beckett's complex, and during this lap the drivers are all warming up their engines, they're warming up their tyres. They need to operate at about 90 degrees centigrade, and the brakes need to be warmed up too, and they need to operate around about 500 degrees. It's a tense time for the drivers too, because they know that within about another minute they are going to be pulling up on that start grid. They're going to have to keep their engines warm. You can see the weaving of cars from left to right. That's to try and create some artificial corners, to try and generate more heat in these tyres. Very important to do that. But they're going to know that what they do when they come onto that grid, They don't want to overheat the engine. They've got to watch those red lights. It's absolutely crucial. Their best chance to overtake, the most dangerous chance of the race. Puffer braking locking there from Michael Schumacher. Obviously just pumping that brake pedal to try and get temperature into those brakes. That would have done any harm, but it's not too good to do that kind of thing. Now they're coming up now towards, this is out of the club right-hander corner. They'll be doing 150 miles an hour at that point. See how Damon Hill slows up now. Damon does not want to arrive on that grid well ahead of everybody else, because the earlier he gets there, the longer he's going to have to wait with his engine gradually overheating. So he's let the queue of cars build up behind him. Then he'll have, as we can see now, a jab of acceleration up towards, this is a fantastic corner here, Bridge, 150 miles an hour. Bridge corner flat out in 5th gear, left-hander very tight into Priory, 80 miles an hour, down to almost 1st gear for some corners. For this next one at Brooklyn, 60 or 70 miles an hour. Then you've got the right-hander, the 2 rights, Luffield 1, Luffield 2, both 80 miles an hour in 3rd gear. But apart from watching Hill and Schumacher, this start's going to be absolutely crucial to see who gets away first. It should be Hill. He's on the left-hand side of the track, which is our right-hand side looking head-on. That's the line. That's where the track has got the rubber in. It's cleaner. There should be more grip there. But apart from those front two, another one to watch out for is Mika Hakkinen in the red and white McLaren. He's down in 8th place, but he's just coming into the top of the picture then. He's gone now, but watch for him. If he moves up, and I'm sure he will, it'll sure to be spectacular.
Yes, this is the crunch time. The British Grand Prix is soon to begin. They are coming round the corner. The tail enders there is Mika Salo, who had his Friday times disallowed for failing to comply with the red light for weighing his car. Bringing up the rear of the grid is Andrea Montemini. We are in Lacey's Ferrari now, the winner of the Canadian Grand Prix. And as Jonathan said, I advise you very strongly to keep an eye on Mika Hakkinen and watch for the lights.